Halloween
forever.
Evening, Steven. How are you?
I feel like that's the first time you've actually done that intro. The pairing the two together.
Evenings. Yeah. That just came to me. It's just little organic strikes of genius that come to me on occasion. Was reading an article today.
Uh-huh.
You ever do that? You ever read articles?
No, I am notedly dyslexic and stupid.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, sorry to bring it up. Yeah, I was reading an article. I found it kind of interesting. A little fun fact that I learned. Do you know what the leading cause of skin dryness among Americans is?
The leading cause of skin dryness among Americans.
Yeah. Now, this is specifically among Americans.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Is it a Dust Bowl joke in any way?
No, it's not. What are we doing? Fucking tortilla flats tonight, Steven? No, we're not. It's not a Dust Bowl joke.
Well, then I don't.
What is the leading cause of dry skin amongst Americans?
I don't know, Brian.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's towels.
Hey,
boys and girls, to fucking real quality Minisode you got coming your way tonight of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
We're off to a good start because that was a quality joke, and I feel like I got you with it, even though you didn't laugh. I think you appreciated it deep down somewhere. And in case you haven't picked up on it yet, your boy has very little voice left. Been under the weather, been dealing with this head cold, chest cold. We all got it right now. It's the Monday after Valentine's Day. We're all smooching all weekend long. Valentine's weekend. Everyone's now everyone's sick because it's cold, and we were swapping spit all weekend. So here we are. We're all sick this week, and boy howdy, your boy's got it bad. So I mean, this afternoon contemplated texting like, hey, I don't know if I can record. Like, I had no voice this afternoon, but I've been resting it. I've been drinking some tea. I've been enjoying a lozenge, as I'm known to do from time to time. I'm the type of gentleman who will on occasion enjoy a lozenge, and that was helping a little bit as well. But like right now, I got a nice big mug of lemon ginger tea here that'll hopefully get me through the Minisode here. But forgive me, because your boy is not sounding very good right now.
Does that lemon ginger tea have honey in it?
It does not.
You gotta do the throat coat. Gotta do throat coat.
Yeah,
throat coat for the throat coat.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. I probably should have. You're right. I probably should have. I am not a big sweetener in my tea and coffee type of guy, so I don't think to do that. But yes, for the throat, probably should have. But listen, here we are, and we're gonna do the best with what we got, and what we got is about a 20% voice here. So maybe we'll figure out some tips and hot tricks from this here movie. Because they're doing all manner of medical procedures in this movie. And maybe we can figure out how to fix my fucked up voice by the end of it. Guys, this week we're going to talk about the newly released, and I don't know if it's a Shudder exclusive.
Yeah, it is.
But is it? Okay. But it is from the year of our Lord 20 and 24, Grafted, directed by one Sasha Rainbow. That's what we're going to talk about this week. But before we do that, we got to do some other shit at the top of the show like we always do. First of all, so I can stop talking for 1 second, Steven, are you sipping on something over there? I know we've already talked about my beverage. I got some tea. I'm not drinking on any beers here currently. But I will talk about my beer drinking exploits of the weekend. But are you sipping on anything currently?
I am. And I don't want to put the place on blast where I bought this at, but there are still some places out there selling Christmas ales into February.
Okay.
And
sure.
Look, I don't approve of that. However, I wanted this one because I just hadn't seen it in a long time for whatever reason, and I haven't had this type of beer in a while. But I picked up the Bell's Scotch Ale Christmas Ale because I just haven't had a Scotch Ale in a long time. But yeah, it's their just kind of classic Christmas ale, 7.5%. But it's got that nice, deep, roasty kind of caramel flavor to it, and it's got a little bit of spice, little bit of spices to it, but not like an overpowering like, hey, it tastes like cinnamon or anything like that, or like here's a bunch of nutmeg.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That sounds kind of nice. You know, I was going to grab myself a speaking of big old beers for cool weather, I grabbed myself a 6-pack of this year's Bigfoot barley wine from Sierra Nevada.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to drink on one of those, but I said, you know what, I need some hot tea in my life right here. And also, and this might have something to do with, why I am not getting over this cold, is because rather than, hydrating and doing the things that I should be doing to get better, I've just been drinking beer all weekend.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a tradition at the local Elwood City Hungarian Club, of which I'm a member. It's Sausage Day. And I know for those of you who are not members of the Elwood City Hungarian Club, Sausage Day is a big deal. They make a bunch of yummy Hungarian sausages, and they're free. Free sausages for members. You come down, you can get them to go if you want. They got all the caramelized onions, the kraut, the peppers, all the stuff to put on the sausages, and they're delicious. So of course, I went down the club. You have a couple 2-3 beers at the club. You're socializing. Everyone's there. You're talking. Before you know it, that going in for a beer and get your sausage. Before you know, you had 6 beers. You had 8 beers. You had 10 beers. You have a couple beers. Then had some family over last night. We were playing games. We were drinking beers again. We were up late. And then I woke up today, and like I told you, I was at that fundraising event, which was kind of like we've talked about the gun bash. That's a big thing around where we're at.
Oh, yeah.
This was a golf bash, so it was like that, except for instead of winning guns, you win golf clubs and things like that.
Fun.
Your boy didn't win anything, but I did eat some chili dogs. And I did have some rigatonis, and I did drink a whole bunch more beers. So I just been drinking beer for about 2 days straight here. So that probably doesn't help my illness. And I'm now moving on to tea.
Yeah, no, so. Yeah, because it's just beer and different types of sausages. Because chili dogs, sure, it's a chili dog, but that's a new type of sausage anyway. That's a smaller sausage.
Mm-hmm. Really, if you think about it, almost every weekend, there is at least one day every weekend that is Sausage Day for me, because you get 2 sausages on Sausage Day. You get your ticket. So I ate one there at the club. Was hanging out with some friends. We were eating some sausage. I had my one sausage. They're sausage sandwiches. I had a sausage sandwich. I took my other one to go. Guess what I ate about an hour before we jumped on here?
Another sausage.
My other fucking sausage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So between that and the 2 chili dogs that I had this afternoon, I've had about 4 sausages and an untold amount of beers in the last 48 hours. So
yeah, that's why you're not getting better.
Not getting better. I'm farting. All I'm doing is farting, really.
Yeah.
And that ain't helping. That ain't helping the chest congestion.
Nope. That's why you gotta get the honey. Well, the honey will bind the flu to the sausages, and then you poop it all out. That's how science works.
Sausages are the honey of the sea. Doesn't make any sense. I just like saying things are the things of the sea, whether or not any of it comes from the sea. Well, we got a couple other things we got to do too here. First of all, guys, as always, if you want to follow us over on the social medias, on Instagram or on the Blue Sky or whatever, that's how you're going to find out what our showdown topics are going to be. You're going to suggest showdown topics to us if you want to do stuff like that. And then you're also going to help us vote on what our showdown topics are, right? So that's the primary way you're going to do that. Now, you could send us a letter by mail. You could send us a carrier pigeon. You could send us a message in a bottle. But the likelihood that they're going to get to us in time while we're tallying up the votes is pretty low. So I do suggest that you just go on the social medias, vote on there, right? So last week, if you recall, when we had Ian on and we did our punishment episode, we drew 3 more topics from that big old spinny ass wheel, just like we do every damn month. And let me remind you, here's what the 3 potential topics were that we that came up from the wheel. We had horror on the battlefield. We had religious horror, which was a repeat topic, but plenty of I was going to say plenty of bark on that tree. I don't think people say that.
I've never heard that. Great.
Still plenty of bark on that tree. And then lastly, Victorian horror. And Steve, I do not know how it scored on the Blue Sky, but I do know how it scored on the Instagram. Was it similar on the Blue Sky as it was on the Instagram? Do you know?
Every other platform aside from Instagram was mostly tied between Victorian horror and horror on the battlefield. Okay. But Instagram, they firmly were behind one. So.
Yep. They certainly were. So that answers my question. And the topic for the upcoming month of March, which I will repeat it's an exciting bit of news because I don't know how much you guys are into calendars. I don't know if your attention you pay to calendars is a similar amount of attention that I pay to lozenges, which is just, periodically I enjoy them. But for those of you who are novices in terms of calendars, March is the first month that doesn't fucking suck. So I'm excited to get into March. I'm looking forward to it. At least the first half of it sucks, but sometimes the second half doesn't. And we are going to be discussing Victorian horror. So do we need to get prescriptive in terms of, the actual years that the setting of the horror movie needs to take place? You know what I mean? Because of course we're talking about a setting here, right? So should we be really like prescriptive about like the the particular beginning and end years of the Victorian era? Like, does this need to be specifically Victorian England? Like, the Victorian era is, to me, I think of, the 19th century, typically speaking. That's kind of like what I think of. But I'm looking up if it is quite specific here. I mean, if you want to be very specific in terms of like, here, let me see.
So it's very specific in that the Victorian era is, around Queen Victoria's reign. So it's
right
1837 to 1901. Mm-hmm. I would say, however, though, I think there are some movies out there that they would occur in the modern day, but perhaps would be afflicted by the ghosts of the Victorian era.
Oh, okay. So we're talking maybe even a Victorian ghost, because that opens up a whole new can of worms.
Because I think that
for whatever reason,
I think that still counts if like you find yourself,
sure,
I don't know, in some sort of Wayback Machine. If the house throws you back in time, I can't think of that movie if that movie exists. But if you're in a modern day setting and then the house throws you back in time to the Victorian era, sure. But try to, again, it's all about you justifying how Victorian this is. So if you have a film that's about a house that throws you back into the 20s during the great, and you're at a great Gatsby party, well then, hey, you're not doing it right. And you're losing this Victorian battle. You're not getting it.
Sure.
You're out.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So, just because somebody dresses in a costume, a Victorian era costume at a Halloween party in one scene doesn't necessarily justify being a Victorian era movie. So, all right, we'll leave it a little loosey goosey. I like that.
Yeah.
So that'll be our March showdown.
In that same vein, and I'm thinking about it just because we just did fucking Death Rider, but you could have a film that occurs in the Old West of 1865, and that's not going to cut it either, because that's the Old West. Yeah,
that's not a Victorian. Yeah, right. Even though it might have been taking place in that same year, when you think Old West, you're not thinking Victorian. No. Right. All right. Yeah, I think we understand it. We understand each other here. All right. Anything else we got to do at the top of the show? Oh, of course, we've got some big upcoming news here, because over on the Patreon, and I do want to thank everyone who continues to support us on the Patreon. We've got a few of our Patreon subscribers here currently with us in the Discord. And if you want to join all these jabronis here with us in the Discord as we record live, it's a lot of fun. We love having you here. The more the merrier. You got to go over and subscribe on patreon.com/Halloween is forever. But there's some other stuff you can do as well. And Steven, why don't you give them a little rundown of what other perks you get over on the Patreon?
Sure. Once you're on the Patreon, and if you subscribe to the $5 tier, you get everything. And everything includes reviews and recos. So you get reviews of new horror movies as well as just regular old movies. Just whatever I'm watching. It don't matter. And I'll talk about it. And I'll tell you if it's good or not. Whether or not you should spend your money or wait till it's free. Whatever it is. I don't do the 5-star or 10-star rating. I just keep it real simple. Is this a must watch? Is it a recommended? Is it a maybe watch it, or is it a don't watch? Very, very rarely do I say don't watch, but there are some in there that I'm just like, yo, don't ever, not your time.
Don't do it. Yeah.
And then you also get on the Discord, like we were just saying, and everybody in the Discord gets to have a fun time, and they get to share memes, and we interact with them. And they get to throw things out that get brought up on the show. So if you want to hear your name on the show, you sign up, you watch an episode live, you get the episode as early as possible. Hey, isn't that fun? And then on top of all that, you get the exclusive monthly podcasts, the exclusive ones. These are
them exclusives.
The 2-3 hour just ramble fests between Brian and I as we just tear apart some trash ass movie.
Yeah. We got some real fucking garbage that we've done. Steven started this whole thing, and I will remind him of that because this all came from his doing. So this all falls on his shoulders. This blood is on his hands when I ultimately commit suicide. Because of these movies, that's what's going to happen. I threatened Steven and I think actually both of, I will say, I think we're both guilty of threatening to kill ourselves in front of the other ones on multiple occasions while we watch these movies. But I do want to remember, I just want to point out that Steve drew First Blood. He made me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies, all fucking 10 of them. And we talked about every single one of those. So you get all those. That series was called Family is Forever. And then for revenge, right? Because I'm a vengeful, spiteful person. I said, well, you know what? Fuck you, buddy. We're going to watch 10 horrible, like Christian right-wing propaganda horror movies. And we are actually we've completed 9 episodes. We are about to record our 10th and final episode. I've handed him an absolute doozy. Actually, it's probably the most fun movie so far in this series. And then starting in March, Steve is going to take the reins back over, and he is going to announce on our February episode of Youth Group is Forever. He's going to announce what the next series is going to be. So I do not know what it's going to be. Of course, Steven does, and I'm scared. And I'm too sick right now to be horny.
Right.
Because normally if I get really scared, I get horny. And right now I'm too sick to be horny. And my guts are rumbling. And man, those Sausage Day farts, you guys aren't here. And just pray, just thank the devil himself that part of the Patreon experience is not that you can smell what's happening in my office right now because it's fucking atrocious.
However, maybe we can get it.
We're working on it.
Well, just maybe we can get it to the point where like you jar your farts and mail them.
Oh, yes. Maybe that could be, that'll be the Patreon, maybe Christmas present this year. Everyone in the Patreon, I'll get little tiny, cute little jars with a little cork, and I'll put a little ribbon around them. But then when you open them up, it smells like Hungarian sausage farts.
Yep. So I did want to point out that I released a little teaser image because I finished the artwork that will be attached to our new series. And so I put a little teaser on the Patreon as well. And I don't know that you've seen it, and
I haven't.
I'll share it with you here in the Discord.
Okay.
And so you can try to begin to parse what may be coming next.
Okay. Here's what it looks like to me. You're not giving me a lot to work on.
No, it's very censored.
Yeah, it's obviously very blurred out, but I am seeing a couple things. Obviously, I'm seeing our little pixelated pumpkin guy, right? So I'm seeing a little bit of him. I'm seeing some like scribblies behind, and then I'm seeing something along the bottom that does look a little bit familiar in the color scheme, but it's reminding me a little bit between the shirt. Or I'm sorry, between the design in the back reminds me of Rocco's shirt from Rocco's Modern Life. That's kind of what I'm getting from this vibe. So I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of a Nicktoons Rocco's Modern Life type thing, but there's no way that's it because that would be too kind.
Yeah,
right?
It'd be too fun. Yeah, we're just gonna watch our favorite Saturday morning cartoons. No, come on.
No. We're gonna do something. We're gonna do something unpleasant. Well, if you want to find out live with us as we record that last episode, come on over and join us on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Halloween's Forever. You can download it over there. Subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. All right, let me get a little sip of tea here because I'm losing my voice a little bit. Rejuvenated. Okay. Let's start to get into this son of a bitchin' movie. Steve, you suggested this movie, and I did see it come up on the Shudder when it first arrived on the app. I did not watch it initially, but you suggested this one
because it was suggested to us.
Oh, okay. Who suggested this one?
So this comes to us by one of our old social media followers. They've been with us for a while, but they go by the handle Turkey Bacon. Just Turkey Bacon. They interact with us on everything. Sure. So they pointed this out to us. They said, "Hey, have you guys seen it?" And I was like, "Not yet." It was on my list because like Shudder dropped a whole bunch of stuff at once. Yeah, because they dropped this, the Vordelak, that Dark Match movie with Chris Jericho, and it's something else. But like, yeah, they dropped like 4 movies this month that all like. I was like, "Oh, I want to watch that." Yeah. So yeah. But
some good stuff. And I'll tell you right now before I forget, the Vordelak or the Vordelak.
Yeah, Le Vordelak.
Fucking rules. That movie is so goddamn good. And I'm not even going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Just go watch it.
Yeah.
I fucking adored that movie. I'm like, can't wait to watch it again. And I just watched it a few nights ago.
I started it and it had like, I fell asleep because I was like just tired and it was in French. I was like, well, I can't stay up because my body wants to go to sleep.
It's not a sleepy bedtime movie. No. Yeah, it's not a sleepy bedtime movie. And it also has a very kind of dream-like, kind of vibe to it. Like it's not a good before bed movie. I watched it on a bright and early on what was it? I guess it was last weekend, Saturday or Sunday. I was up early before the fam, which oftentimes is the case. And I popped that on and I was like, wow, this movie's fucking good and really weird. And I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. In that first 15 minutes or so that I saw, it had just this real dream-like feel about it that also reminded me of Herzog's vampire Nosferatu the Vampire.
Oh,
because of like all the daytime fog that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like thinking about the castle scenes from Nosferatu the Vampire, where like it's just like it's stark daylight and just like holy shit.
Yeah. It reminds me of the way it's shot, similar, but really well acted. Really, like I feel like if I say much more, I'll spoil stuff, and I don't want to because it's just so fucking weird and creepy, and I loved it.
Sure.
Oh, dance! Oh, yeah. The NBA All-Star game is on right now. I should be watching that instead of Steve. Before we got on here, I did a little Tubi roulette, and Steve told me when to stop, and I landed on 20 and 22 shark bait, and it looks like just the absolute most stock shark movie I've ever seen. And it's just literal white noise on in the background.
Yeah. It's just a flashing image for you to see. I don't need you getting invested in what's on your TV. I just need the little flashing images to fucking stimulate the diodes and cathodes in your eye. I know that's not correct, but the rods and cones. They just need to dilate your iris and make you go, I'm seeing a thing, and then you can pay attention to the rest of the pod with your brain.
Yep, just got to get my rods and cones working.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to Grafted here. Yeah, so this was a listener suggestion. I will say right off the bat, we're going to spoil this movie. I don't think there's a ton to spoil. No. I mean, there's like one big thing, but we are going to spoil it. And I would say that I have mixed feelings about this movie. One of my feelings was, whoa, big crazy swing, right? We're doing wacky shit, which I like. I don't feel confident saying that they stuck the landing on this one.
No.
But I will say, I am going to criticize, but also I respect the movie in that it expects a lot out of its viewer in the sense of suspending your disbelief. It's just like, stay with us, guys.
Right.
We're going to do some wacky stuff. It's not going to make a lot of sense, but stay with us, please.
Yeah. Hold up. Just give us a minute. Let us go. Let us cook.
Yeah.
Let us cook, as they say.
Yeah. As the kids say. This movie, Sasha Rainbow is the director. Anything else that's on your radar, Steve, that she's done? I only see just pretty much a couple other films, and they are short films. So it does appear to be her directorial feature-length debut. But I didn't know if you had seen either of the short films or familiar with them at all.
No,
it doesn't look like there's much even availability, I believe, for them out there.
She is a New Zealand-based director, so I don't know that any of her other stuff has like really made it out. And even her other, she might be considered like a British director, but even one of her other films, Kamali, is a documentary short. So it's not even like a narrative short.
It's not a gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
No really well-known actors on here either, like all pretty unknown performers as far as I could tell. But I thought it was a pretty well acted movie. I'll say that. This is a New Zealand film, but I think I saw it was shot in conjunction with some sort of was there another country involved as well? I mean, I know there's Chinese actors, and it's also about, to a certain extent, the like immigrant experience in New Zealand as somebody, coming from China to New Zealand. But I know this had something to do with the New Zealand, like some sort of like state film.
Yeah, I think New Zealand
fund or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure New Zealand is very similar to like Canada, where you can apply to, just have money for, if you're going to film in New Zealand, you can get money for filming New Zealand, just same way like Pittsburgh gives tax credits for filming in their city.
Sure.
And Toronto, you can both get money for filming in Toronto, but also you can get money if you meet other certain requirements of like, oh yeah, they also speak French. So, hey, here's more Canadian money for filming or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, I'm sure it was just like a couple, they knew how to apply to the right, grants or whatever it may be. And yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, we'll help you make movies because as a country, we want to get more of our, country out there. We want people to enjoy our art because then that actually puts money into our pockets. If we become the next, Japan of film, then hey, and that's going to benefit us in some way. Sure.
And I like that sometimes when I see those kind of like, whatever film grants or whatever that are given out, it tells me that this movie, like they are prepared to do wacky things because this movie doesn't necessarily have to be profitable. You know what I mean? Like this movie is kind of being made and funded for like the sake of for the art's sake, and doesn't have to necessarily like be a financial success, because this is exactly the type of movie where you could see it not being, because it's just kind of a kooky out there film, but it does seem to be pretty well received from what I could see initially. But we'll get a little bit into the plot here. So the star of the movie, the character, her name is Wei, and she has received. Well, we start out with her as a younger child, let's say 10 years old or something like that, and her father is some sort of scientist. He's doing science business. And we quickly see that he's getting up to some sort of nonsense with some like sketchy, kind of organic material, right? And it appears to be, and does later prove to be, skins.
Yeah,
he's doing skin stuff, and it is established right off the bat that Wei and her dad both suffer from some sort of I don't know if I would call it a skin condition or something like that, but they do have some sort of like noticeable, whether it's a birthmark or some sort of skin condition on their face, right?
Yeah.
Did you see any clarification on what, like, I don't think they called it out in the movie, but it's some sort of like condition that I guess the assumption that we're supposed to make here is that it is like, I don't know, genetic or something like that, because her dad has it and then she has it.
Yeah, I think they purposely left it a little vague as to what exactly their affliction was, because they also wanted to lean on the metaphor of it being a curse, which they say, they say out loud. But like, they just wanted to be like, oh, there's this thing that's passed down between the two of them. And, they both share the physical malady, but also the same obsession with, curing and perfection. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we learn that he is, he's studying some sort of new I don't want to say technology is the right word, but some sort of new treatment method for skin grafting, like being able to like, replace a section of your skin and have it kind of like, grow together and, look like it's just always been like that. Right. And we quickly see this instance where he is, he's trying this experiment out on himself. So he's kind of his own guinea pig, and it quickly results in a bit of, skin grafting material that grows very rapidly. And we get some pretty wacky, ballsy CGI effects of basically skin rapidly growing over his mouth.
Yeah.
And then he keeps having to cut himself a new mouth because he's going to, suffocate or whatever. And then he ends up like, I don't know, passing out or whatever. And then young Wei is like also trying to do the same thing, but it's growing back too fast. And ultimately, dad perishes because they can't cut him a mouth fast enough. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, guys.
No.
I'm just saying that's what it looked like to me.
He both suffocates and probably bleeds out because like she keeps stabbing him as he's on the ground. So she's probably, reaching in, stabbing, nicking vital organs, and then but the skin grows over and heals. So like he's just got a mouthful of stabs, and then but it's all healed.
Sure.
So yeah, this first scene is super effective and really good. Like I really enjoyed it. Did you catch like as they were kind of doing the opening setup shots? There was just like a face in a jar in the house.
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see the face in the jar. There's a lot of creepy stuff around.
Yeah.
Dad's laboratory does not look to be up to code. This laboratory does not exist in a top flight, institute of learning. This looks to be in like a grungy, apartment, or perhaps like a warehouse type setting or off. I don't know, but this is not it's not up to snuff from a cleanliness and professional practices perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely residential. There's a very opening shot where they show you like this incredibly cramped residential apartment space, and like I feel like they were trying to imply like the Kowloon City, but that that hasn't existed since the 90s. They're just trying to tell you like, hey, they are in like the lowest of living conditions, and that's where they have to run their labs.
My kids just came in to say goodnight and experienced like the cloud of farts that are in this room right now. They both made a barfing like face when they came into the room.
Fart room.
I think this room, man. I'm gonna have to repaint the walls. Anyway, so fast forward, and Wei is, as well as her cousin, and her aunt. So I guess her aunt, uncle, and cousin already live in New Zealand, and Wei has gotten a scholarship to this, I guess it's a university. And she is going to stay with her aunt. I guess the uncle has just left. I didn't pay a lot of close attention to this like side story, but essentially what I got from it was the aunt who's a little like, I guess, good natured, but a little, I don't know, certainly stressed out, but also just a little eccentric. She seems to be trying to start some sort of like beauty business.
Yeah.
Almost reminds me of like a Mary Kay type situation.
Yeah. She's doing beauty MLM.
Yeah. She seems to be involved in some sort of business that is floundering horribly. And that's why I got like an idea of some sort of like a Mary Kay type situation, MLM or something. But their house, which is an enormous like mansion type of house, but is in clearly like mid renovation. So much so that there's like a just plastic hanging down to like open walls to the exterior. Yeah. It's bizarre.
Yeah. It's a bizarre setup, but yeah, it is, because just like she says, her husband just up and left, just fucking quit and left, and then left the house mid renovation. And so in order to pay for the renovations and still live in the house and everything, she takes on this job at that, as an MLM marketer. And so she's never home because she's always driving up and down the mean streets of New Zealand, the back alleys of Auckland, to sell, these fucking just shit ass beauty products. Pitching creams and pastes and things like that for your skin. Then their kid, who is Wei's cousin, her name is Angela or Angie.
And then, of course, you have Wei. And Angie has grown up in New Zealand, or at least the majority of her life in New Zealand. So she's very like localized. Like she doesn't have, a Chinese accent or anything like that. She speaks very fluent English. Wei speaks fluent English as well, but she has like a strong accent. And she's just like, this is a whole new world to her. So she feels very much like an outsider. And Angie immediately does not take particularly kindly to her, like being there and being this kind of like outsider who's gonna, I don't know, embarrass her in front of her New Zealand friends. So but Wei is like super smart, just like her dad, but we learn later has a lot of similar eccentricities. The other kids, Angie and her friends, are what I can only describe as Bratz dolls.
Mm-hmm.
They look like and dress like and act like, to a certain extent, Bratz dolls. If you're familiar with Bratz dolls, they're weird, skinny, giant head, sexy babies. I don't know how else to describe them. And this is how they all dress and act, including Angie. So Wei is very into, she wants to work on her dad's research. She's kept all of his like creepy, like eccentric sketchbooks and notebooks and research written down and everything, and takes it with her. There is a teacher, their professor. He is super creepy. And he does eventually like warm up to Wei, even though she's like feels very much like an outsider, but it's clear she's very bright right off the bat, and like the test she's scores on her tests and stuff like that. And he eventually says that she can be his lab assistant and maybe work on her dad's research or her own research or whatever.
Yeah. So at this point, I just want to point out, like, even though we're seeing a bunch of different walks of life, sort of, with like we see Wei's living conditions as she's young, we see the way the aunt lives, we see the way the Bratz dolls are, and then we see this lab. They're all very distinct, but everything is fucking ugly. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know if you ever got that feel from this, but like it's funny that this movie is very much about beauty standards, but it's very intentional that the production design on this is that everything is ugly, everything is tacky, everything, because like you're saying, like the Bratz dolls girls, they're obviously supposed to be the hot girls of the school, but they still dress in a very tacky fashion that like
almost cartoonish, like almost
like not quite like a New Jersey housewife with all leopard print everything, but it's kind of close to that, where like we're gonna wear animal prints and be like gross and like loud and just like ugh. But then so that's like their own kind of gross disgustingness. The lab has that kind of piss and phlegm coloring to it on the inside.
Sure.
The mansion is in disrepair, and it's obviously like an old mansion anyway. Like it's like it was an old mansion before they probably even moved into it, and that's why they started renovating it. But also it's in disrepair and looks like shit, and like there's just bad carpeting everywhere, and everything looks gross, and it just feels gross, and it's like we're trying to achieve perfect beauty standards while everything is disgusting around us anyway.
Yeah, and it's like intentionally lit, right? And intentionally shot to look kind of shabby. And even like the people, who some of the characters, especially some of like the popular kids who are like attractive humans, are still kind of shown with their rough edges because it's all obviously very, very skin deep, which was not intended to be a horrible pun, but it was. So all the Bratz dolls come over to the house, and they are immediately going into Wei's room, and they're just kind of like indirectly bullying her right off the bat. They just treat her like shit, dismiss her. Yeah, like just look through her shit, just treat her like garbage, basically. We also get the idea. We get these like hints via emails. We see little snippets of that the professor, he is running into some issues, some funding problems. He's going to lose funding if he doesn't do something sciencey soon, basically. Wei is very much approaching it as like she wants to make friends and all this stuff. So she invites, the Bratz girls to dinner to go get her dad's favorite dish, because she has this little shrine, and she, it's like customary to put like some of the deceased like family members like favorite foods on the shrine, and she wants to do this, to honor her father. So they go out to have this kind of like, more traditional Chinese meal. And like one of the things they're eating, they're having like duck, and they also are having chicken feet. And her cousin, Angela, who looks, or supposed to be the same age, but looks to be like 10 years older to me. At least to me, she looked so much older. It was distracting. She is very, probably fair to say, like ashamed, or is trying to hide like her like Chinese heritage and like her preferences. So like, she's like, oh, your mom, Wei's like, oh, your mom said chicken feet are your favorite. And she like gets like embarrassed and like storms out and like won't have any of the food. And they all, leave her there and just generally, treat her like shit.
Yeah. It's very much just like on Angela's part, just embarrassment of her heritage. But like, as soon as she brings the girls over to the house, they're making fun of the shrine. They're making fun of the incense, just like anything that has to do with, China, and anything that would other her from who is basically the head mean girl, Eve, who is, just the white, New Zealand local who like has been there. Like everybody falls in line for Eve, even though Jasmine, who is, I'm assuming Maori, but I could be wrong about that. But, Jasmine would be, the native of New Zealand. She also is trying to fall in line with, the white, colonizer essentially of New Zealand. So, yeah.
Wei does meet this like this homeless guy on the street. Appears to be like a burn victim, it appears, and he gives her some directions. Wei ends up talking to him like a few times throughout the early part of the movie, and they talk about her birthmark or whatever it is, and they mention that she's doing some sort of research around that. So we don't really get much significance in terms of like who he is, but they do seem to have some sort of connection, and at least initially, Wei's very much interested in helping people via her research. The professor is getting pretty desperate with his funding situation. He ends up picking up Wei and having like a creepy car chat with her about how they can like put their minds together and like really just solve his funding problems, but change the world kind of thing. So she's quite excited. And then we get one of the most like story packed montages I've ever seen. Like we get this montage, and a lot of times you get a montage, it just, goes to, demonstrate how much somebody is working at something, and you see the progression of them getting better at it, or sometimes they're getting better and then they're worse and they're getting better again. But like, it's going to show that like time's passed, and, it's a gradual, work towards a particular outcome. In this montage, like they start doing the research. The doctor like makes her all these promises. It seems to be going well. Then it's not. Then like, the doctor is like berating her and getting frustrated. And then like the cousin is simultaneously getting more pissed that Wei is there. And then like, The auntie is like gallivanting around or something. It's just there's a lot going. They're telling a lot about a lot of characters in this one single montage. But the biggest takeaway is that like the work is not really progressing very well for Wei and the professor. And they're not, where they need to be. They're not, they haven't, perfected whatever this methodology is.
Yeah. This is the let us cook kind of montage, because
sure,
where they started the film and where they're trying to go is like they're very, very distant as to where like things need to wind up for things to kick off. And so it's weird to have such a montage in your first act, because in your first act you're doing a lot of setup. But if they didn't have it as a montage, this film would be 2 hours and 10 minutes or some shit like that, so they're like, you know what, no, we can't do that, let's just bam 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 show a lot of shit. And also the director's first credit on IMDb is a music video, and so I think because this is her feature debut and she's mostly done shorts and music videos, I think there's maybe just like a translation that she's not connecting yet. Because like a lot of this film is just clumsy in getting from A to B on a lot of stuff. Like it's just clumsy and like understanding the repercussions of things and knowing how to get the places. So like I can see, just like, oh yeah, we're just going to do this now to get us to there. And it's like, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Can we do this different? But there's probably 2 or 3 good examples of that happening in this movie. And this is, the first one and maybe the most glaring one. Yeah. I honestly don't mind the montage. I like it. It's just kind of like a fun way to get, I'm thinking more of the scene where the cops show up at the house. That's another one. That's so clunky and it doesn't make any sense and doesn't add anything. And comes to that one I'm just like, I don't know.
There's one other one I'll mention as well as we go along, but it does seem a little out of place. Does seem I don't know if overwritten is the right word, but it's like there's a big jump that has to happen. Like something has to happen for there to be this big jump in the story, and it doesn't feel natural or believable. But so we do get again a little bit more idea that Jasmine is the one of the Bratz dolls who's kind of nice, at least has some like empathy for Wei and like genuinely like wants to make her feel more welcomed. There's this connection that we get a little taste of early on when we have that flashback to when Wei's dad's still alive, but also in the notebook that she's taking her father's research from. There's all these allusions to this corpse flower, which is this big, it's a real thing, right? I remember when I want to say, is it Phipps Conservatory or some place here in Pittsburgh had had this at one point, or still does perhaps. But when it blooms, it's like very infrequent. But when it blooms, it smells like rotting flesh, which I guess is, I don't know the botanical benefit, but it draws flies in or something like that. Maybe it's for pollination purposes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's this rare, big, giant flower that smells like rotten flesh when it's in full bloom. Wei ends up like there's a local place that has one and it is blooming, so she goes and breaks into this place in the middle of the night and gets some of its flower goo, brings it back and adds the flower goo to the experiment. And I love again, and you guys might be saying, you're obviously a doctor, Brian, because the way you're speaking with such validity and just such a level of expertise. You must be a doctor.
Yeah, just a level of
guys.
biological knowledge that none of us can comprehend.
Yeah, and you guys are like, wait, you're not a doctor? Hate to disappoint. I am not a doctor. But I do find it interesting, like how just I don't know, lo-fi the like experiments are that she's doing. Like, it's just like, here's some skin, squeeze some goo on it. Now it's we've done science. Now that's all it needs to do. Like, they will just have like somebody holding up a little vial or like a little like flask, swirling it around. And then they just have a different colored goo and then they pour it on something.
Yeah. Well, see, her father's goo was yellow. But that was the bad goo. That goo didn't work well.
Yeah. No.
Her
made his mouth grow over.
Yeah, which I believe what we're supposed to take from that is that he was using snake venom to.
I missed that.
Yeah, because they have a snake in the apartment, and
because she feeds the snake, right?
Yeah, and snake venom is, usually like yellowish. So
yeah,
I believe
famously sciencey.
It's very big science times. So I believe we're supposed to take that from that. And then, but she rejects using snakes and uses fucking the corpse flower.
Mm-hmm.
How any of this relates to like this is where you just shut your brain off. Like, don't think. Yeah. Like, don't expect this to explain anything about the science. It just works. It just works.
Corpse flower is this movie's nuclear waste. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It could be nuclear waste. It could be dust from a comet. Doesn't matter. In this movie, it just happens to be corpse flower goo. And that's fine with me. I'm not gonna get hung up on that. But I do like that if you just squirt it on something, it's just like all the research makes sense now. But she's experimenting with it, and she's actually experimenting on herself, which is like, there's definitely some pretty gruesome body horror in this movie where she's using this really gross little tool, which I can only describe as a potato peeler.
Yeah.
For taking skin off, and it's yucky. And she's taking little like rectangular strips of skin off of her inner thighs to experiment on, which that's gotta hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand why you'd be doing it on your inner thighs, is like to hide it, but that's a sensitive spot. It's ticklish.
Yeah.
I don't like the sound of it, of using a potato peeler on my thighs. But just what she's doing, and for the sake of science.
Yeah. You could also read that as a metaphor for like self-harm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so while she's doing that, the big tall blonde Bratz doll, what's her name? Eve, mm-hmm. Right? Eve is banging the weird professor, which we kind of already figured that was the case, but they are literally banging in the office while she's in the lab doing this, and they hear her and they are like, what the fuck is she doing here, kind of thing. And in an effort to not get caught, he goes out, confronts her. She shows him, for some reason, her inner thigh, like where she's getting the skin. Because I guess she needs to show him that, like, hey, look, I figured it out. You know what I mean? Our research is like, hey, we're off and running here, which is, of course, exciting. But she does go to a lot of length to show him where the skin came from. And and Eve gets a picture on her phone, takes a picture of what appears to be him, like looking at her crotch, like showing the professor like her crotch. Yeah. That's what it looks like in the photo.
Yeah.
So it's kind of blackmail fodder at this point.
Which I don't think it is. I think it's easily explainable that they're in a lab. They're obviously doing science.
Yeah. What are we going to be doing? Sex? This isn't a sex lab. No. It's a science lab.
Yeah. You're going to contaminate the experiments.
Yeah, with sex juices. You don't want to do that. The doctor is trying to steal Way's and really Way's father's research by getting somebody to translate it. he ends up like taking her book of notes, and research notes. I don't know. And then I keep forgetting her name, but I'm just calling her the blonde brat doll. She accuses Wei of essentially what she was doing, which is banging the professor, and then like leaves her out in the woods. Just like drives her out and just like leaves her out there and says like walk home. So we get the idea right off the bat, like she's horrible, right? We already had figured she was horrible, but now we get the idea she's extra horrible, super manipulative. So Wei and Angie get into a fight. By the time Angie gets home, by the time Wei gets home, Angie has already received a picture from Eve, and Angie had defaced Wei's dad's shrine, and a little wrestling match ensues. Angie tries to choke Wei, and I should say, because it to me becomes pretty relevant later on here, Angie is considerably larger and more athletic built than Wei. Wei is kind of like small, like petite, very thin, kind of wafy. Mm-hmm. And Angie is like a little bit bigger, like just athletic. Like they play her up to be an athlete. And so Wei has no recourse but to fight back by jamming a chopstick in her eyeball and killing her cousin. So she's dead, chopstick in the eye. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys. If you haven't guessed already, this is a face swap situation. This is not what I was expecting, a full face swap, but that is what happens.
She takes her face off.
Yeah, right. This is a Nicolas Cage. What's his name? Not Tom. Obviously, Tommy Lee Jones.
John Travolta.
John Travolta. I knew it wasn't Tommy Lee. Imagine wanting Tommy Lee Jones's face.
No.
A John Travolta, Nicolas Cage situation where she is panicking because she's murdered her cousin, and the only thing she could think to do is take off her own face, used her newly mastered skin grafting goo experiment to put her cousin's face on her skull. Now, the interesting choice for the filmmaker is when she has Angie's face on, they just of course have the actor that plays Angie perform as Wei.
Right.
And the only difference is Wei has a little bit of like her one front tooth is like a little bit sticking out. It's like a little crooked and sticking out. Like her front two teeth are kind of like bunched up, and it's like pushed one of them out a little bit. Otherwise, she is Angie.
Yeah.
And they explain how people can't tell her voice because her voices are extremely different by Wei takes 20 minutes to watch a video of Angie while in the bathtub, and she learns enough of how to talk and have the mannerisms of Angie to trick everyone, including her own mother.
Yeah.
They do not bring up the fact that she is several inches shorter and 20 pounds lighter, probably at least.
Not muscular.
No.
Yeah. Okay. They don't do that. They do set up.
And it gets way worse than this, guys. Way, way dumber.
They do set up that earlier when she was trying to fit in with the Bratz dolls, she was doing like a little practice routine of like doing, "Hey, how's the weather? Hey, how's the weather?" Like she's repeating a phrase to sound more and more. I keep wanting to say Americanized, but but we're in New Zealand. Like she's trying to sound Westernized is what it is.
Just anglicized way of talking.
Yeah. She's trying to sound anglicized in the way she talks because that's the way everybody else around her talks. So yeah, we get a little hint that she already has this skill or superpower to do that, but when she's in the bathtub, watching her cousin's videos and then mimicking her cousin, it's a little believable that she can take on her mannerisms. But yeah, in 20 minutes, in 20 minutes is a bit much. You know, like if we had like I don't know, a month maybe of like, because like the whole reason why she cuts her, cousin's face off is because her mom is on the way home. Like at that moment. But if there was a thing where like she had a month to take her identity and take her face and maybe do some curls, possibly, like it's something.
No, they treat that premise. They take that premise and substitute it into a situation of like, oh, we've just had a big party and mom called and their flight got canceled and they're turning around and coming home. So now we have to clean up the house real fast. But instead, we have to take our cousin's face off, graft it to our face, and assume the position of the cousin.
And stick the body under the bed.
Yeah. And let the dog gnaw on it throughout the movie. So now we've got like a solo Freaky Friday situation. But instead of it being magic, it's I cut her face off, put it on my face. She has to do all these things. She gets increasingly more desperate, right? Like she, Angie, I don't even know if they mention what sport Angie plays, but Angie is like an athlete and she's got to go to school the next day and she's got her sports game. And she's like, oh, I don't know how to play a sports game. So she breaks her finger on purpose, like slams it in a door just to like get out of it. And then she goes on a date with Angie's boyfriend, which was maybe a little ambitious, but you get the idea that Wei is sinking more into Angie's life because Angie is so like beloved by her aunt and her boyfriend and just like admired in school and stuff like that. And people have never like looked at and acted towards Wei in that manner before. So she's really soaking it up. And of course, Angie's got the cute boyfriend. So she gets all dressed up, decides she's going to go on a date with him. So they go out in the, to the secluded location on the side of a cliff. Chekhov's cliff over there. And it's a real goof 'em up, guys. They're getting intimate. And when Wei goes to kind of climb on top of him, her dang old face falls off right onto his face. He panics, ends up falling off the cliff and squishes on a random car that's at the bottom of the cliff.
And as he goes over the cliff, I believe he takes her face with him. Like, so it gets all dusty because it falls on top of him and he like holds it up.
Yeah.
And I think, as he falls over, he's taking the face with him.
Perhaps she does recover the face regardless because she uses the face again. But yeah, it's a real goof 'em up and he ends up dead. Meanwhile, the doc, the professor, is really starting to play hardball here. He's basically like, fuck you, I have your dad's research and I'm going to use it and you're not going to get it back, and tough shit, basically. And this is when Wei really loses it and is like, all right, I'm going after your little girlfriend there, meaning Eve. And she does another kind of grafting spell with her goo and puts Angie's face back on. But it is almost like a spell. I say spell because it only lasts a certain amount of time and then it starts to wear off. So it's a little bit of a, Cinderella, turning back into her old self at midnight type situation where it only lasts for a certain amount of time. And then she's got to redo it because it starts to kind of come apart at the seams. And you start to see these little bloody, yucky spots on her face, like where the face like wants to, I don't know, reject the host or something.
Yeah. This is where I think like if a little bit more explanation about the corpse flower may have been a little bit more helpful, because the corpse flower, it like you said, you mentioned it already. It blooms infrequently, but like when we say infrequently, we mean like years at a time. And so it's only open for a couple days and then it shuts up for years. So this idea that her face would only, or the graft would only last for a limited amount of time makes sense if it's tied to the corpse flower biology, because the corpse flower only lasts in bloom for a certain amount of time. You said like the Phipps one, you think it's still there. I think it's still there too, but I don't think it's bloomed since 2017, which is why we don't think about it.
Sure. Yep, exactly. Yeah, this is something, but they don't really mention that, that's why or anything like that. There's not really much tie back to it besides the fact that it's something that is, they show it like all gross and stuff like that when the professor goes to see it, and it's all like rotting kind of. So it's fleeting really is the only thing we come to learn, I guess. And even then, like, it's not really called out very specifically. Anyway, she hangs out with Eve and kind of lures her into a bit of a false sense of security here, because she wants to, of course, kill her to get back at the professor for stealing her science. So she chases after her. The Eve does maybe one of the dumber things I've seen a soon-to-be murder victim do in a movie, which is hide underwater. That place where there's no oxygen to breathe.
Right.
She goes into this little like pool and just lays, just like pushes herself underwater. It's like, oh, she'll never find me under here. And just goes underwater. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're gonna have to come up here in a second.
There's something to hiding underwater if it's in a river that will move you along to another location, and you can hide under the water and be transported. This is just a dirty ass, not even swimming pool. It might be a lap pool, but I think it's more of just like a garden reflecting pool, and it's just dirty. And she just goes, well, I guess I go in here rather than running anywhere else. You could go anywhere,
but she goes, nope, I'm going to go right here. And then just slowly goes down underwater right near the entry point into the water. And Wei decides that she's going to dispatch her with a drill, like a power drill with a really long bit, which is, I guess, fun, but also feels like there's 100 other things that could be around. I mean, I think the suggestion here is this is like mid renovation, so there's tools around, and that just happens to be what she grabbed. But she does drill down through the top of her head into her brain, and then a bunch of brain and blood goo come out, which is fun. So, guys, guess what? We get another face-off situation here, but even more insane because, of course, Wei puts, you guessed it, Eve's face on. But for those of you who haven't seen it, Wei is, again, this very petite Chinese girl, right? And then Eve looks like a Temu Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
She appears to be at least 5'10", maybe 6 foot tall.
She is even taller than Angie.
Way taller.
So.
I think she might even be taller than the professor. Like, she's legitimately like at least 5'10", and Wei appears to be 5'3". I mean, they're at least 6 inches different height.
Yeah.
Not to mention completely different skin tone. Completely different. Not to mention blonde hair, long blonde hair, which Wei has long hair, but it's black. So the hair is the least of my concerns. And she actually shows her. She dyes her hair. She puts in contact lenses. And I'm like, funny that you took the time to explain the contact lenses, but you did not take the time to explain the 6-inch height difference and completely different body shape, like completely different.
Yeah, different body shape, different skin. It's the skin tone that really just throws it off because, okay, the height can be solved with heels.
Yeah.
The lack of breasts can be solved with stuffing. The hair can be solved with dyeing. It is the fucking just the way that her face is not going to match the rest of her skin is just the most hilarious bit.
Yeah. It's like it could not look more different. Like they are completely different skin tone.
Yeah.
But again, this is what I mean when I say this movie asks a lot of its viewers to just be like, guys, just let it go. Don't we know this is dumb. We know that doesn't make sense. This really is more of a body snatcher type scenario, but we have applied this whole grafting face swap situation to what really should be like a body snatching type situation or a Freaky Friday type situation where the brains switch, but instead of brains, we're switching just faces and then letting all the other puzzle pieces just fall into place.
Yeah. It would have been easy to kind of explain away though, because her aunt sells all this bum ass makeup. If they just made it more clear that Wei was just like digging into these boxes of unsold Mary Kay products and just putting on, pounds and pounds of concealer in the correct skin tone, like that's a fun, like, because you can also just get a fun image of her basically doing white chicks, of like she has the white chick face on, but then has to like cover up everything else with all this shit ass product that is just like filling the house.
Or she could just be like, I'm gonna wear like like baggy sweats and pull my hood up, you know what I mean? And like it could have been something like that, but no, they literally just have the performer who was acting, as Eve is now acting as Wei with Eve's face.
Yeah.
But everything else has changed back to Eve.
And she gives her, and they give her the big tooth. She gets the big tooth too.
Yes. Oh, we do mention that. Yeah. So when the only difference between Eve and Wei as Eve is she's got the one slightly different tooth.
Yeah.
Like the slight twisted tooth in the front. This is kind of an interesting development. And this is when you're kind of like, hey, Wei is really just not planning this out very well. Is she then goes and fucks the teacher, which is interesting on a couple of levels. One, why did you do that? Or is it kind of just like, you do get the idea that she's very sheltered, and like when she kisses boys as Angie, you can tell she makes his face like, that is the first time I've ever kissed a boy, you know? And it so it was kind of an interesting thing of like, oh no, just Wei is a virgin and just like got this opportunity and is like, hey, even though this guy's like a piece of shit, I think I'm just gonna fuck him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not the way I read the scene. I read it.
No, it's not. But that would have been more interesting, I think. But instead, it makes no sense that she does it, because she does fuck the teacher. But then they cut to a scene of her like scrubbing herself in the tub, like she's disgusted by what happened.
Yeah, it appears more that it's less that she like had sex with the teacher, and it was more like it is like an implied sexual assault, because she goes to his house with the intention of stealing back her notebook. That's her intention going there.
Yeah.
But because the teacher's only relationship with Eve is that he just fucks her whenever, like she's not actually smart. She's not good at chemistry. He gives her good grades in exchange for sexual favors. So it's just a transactional relationship. Like he has no interest in her as a person, because we've seen, we get another scene earlier on where it's just the two of them in bed, real Eve and in the professor, and like he has no interest in her as a person. He's just he's just fucking Timo Margot Robbie because he is old and can do that and has power. So when Wei as Eve goes over there, she doesn't know that power dynamic, and regular Eve, yes, would just submit to getting fucked by the teacher, but that's not what Wei was expecting. And then she just winds up, like on the wrong end of something that her amounts to, like sexual assault or rape. Because
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that does make sense. I thought that she went over there to manipulate him in some capacity and via sex.
Yeah. I don't think via sex, but I think she did go over to manipulate him, and she just didn't realize that like she doesn't have any power in that situation, even as
maybe
Eve.
she didn't. Yeah, maybe she didn't know the level of their relationship, or didn't know what their relationship was like or whatever. But here's the other part, and perhaps the more I don't know, poignant part is, how could the professor not tell the difference between Wei and Eve? Like in this moment, when you're having sexual relations with somebody, you can tell who they are and who they are not. You know what I mean? So it's a big concession for us as an audience to go, oh, he didn't even tell the difference. Wait, hold on a second.
Right.
What? So she does. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just not. It's just a stupid thought, but it was just like, yeah, when he takes her pants down and she has like a big black bush down there. Like, I never noticed.
Did she dye her pubic hair also? Like, yeah. I mean, she just is. It is just a different body.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Assuming you've been having relations with somebody for a while, you at least have a reasonable understanding of what they look like naked, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And for he's just like, oh wow, you just showed up with a completely different body today. That's wild.
Because my assumption is Eve regularly probably does some sort of grooming downstairs. Like she, she's a young in her 20s. Like, yeah, they, everybody in their 20s should be grooming up their pubes because people are going to put their mouth down there. It's just what happens.
Sure. Right.
Wei has never had sex before. And so I imagine she just has a big unkempt bush. And so when he goes,
I didn't anticipate getting this deep into the bush theories,
but that's what should be the clue to the professor of because he had just had sex with Eve not too long ago. He should be able to say, hey, there's no way you grow that much pubic hair in a couple days. That's crazy. What's happening here?
I think the bigger giveaway, which would have been, wait, you're 6 inches shorter than you were yesterday.
No. Men don't notice things
Your
like that.
Your entire body is dramatically smaller. Your wingspan shrunk by 1.5 feet. Like,
where them titties at?
Like, there's just a lot of things before the bush, but I do appreciate that you really put your foot down when it came to the differences in bush.
Look, that's the solidifying fact for me.
That's what galvanized the whole. Yeah. Nope. Did not come up.
Your movie's implausible because her bush is different.
Yeah, you didn't think about the bush, you fools.
You gotta put these things together.
I'm just imagining Dennis. You didn't think about the smell, you bitch. So she has all their cell phones, all of her, murder victims at this point. And she is like kind of orchestrating everything, and trying to keep up appearances. But she's also, very much like losing her mind here. Wei is. Kids are showing up missing, right? So now there's cops involved, and ultimately the doc gets figured out that he's having a relationship with a student. he's forced to resign, but he's even more focused on finishing the research now because like, hey, I ain't got no job. I gotta get this study published or whatever, and collect my glory and my Nobel Prize or whatever the fuck it is, because I ain't got no job now. So he digs deep into Way's dad's research, figures out how to make the serum with the corpse flower goo and all that stuff. And this is probably my least favorite scene. This is the thing where I'm just like, this is a little much. I know we're talking about, putting people's faces on and stuff like that, but this felt like quite a jump. So Wei goes over to the doc's house, right? Because he's like, hey, I figured it out. I figured out the science. Come on over. Let's celebrate. To Eve. So Wei goes over as Eve, of course. And he's like, hey, I did it. We're celebrating. And she's just kind of hanging out sitting on the chair or whatever. And he's like, we're going to celebrate. So he goes over and, starts pouring drinks, but he also goes to his little private stash, like in his bar. And I think he's got like some Coke in there. Yeah. So he's like grabbing his Coke because he's going to do a couple of rails to celebrate. And when he walks into the other room, Wei, of course, as Eve, goes over and finds that his Coke stash is also where he keeps his top secret science goo. So she steals the science goo back. And then she's like, I don't feel good. I have a headache. And he's like, go home. And then she just like leaves. Well, then he goes, as soon as she leaves, he goes back over to his stash area. Just a hunch.
Yeah.
He's Columbo now. Yeah. He goes back over to his place where he had just gone over to get his Coke and goes, well, I'm just going to double check to make sure my science goo's there. It's not. And when he realizes the science goo's gone, he doesn't go, wow, my girlfriend who just got me fired from my job and is obviously a sociopath just stole my science goo. His brain immediately goes to, that's Wei wearing my girlfriend's face because she discovered how to do the science that I just discovered and can turn into anybody by wearing their face. He figures it all out just by the fact that his science goo is gone.
Yeah.
Which is fucking so wild.
Yeah.
Even in a face swapping movie, it's fucking wild.
Again, and this is another thing that they could do to, I don't know, hide or like change things around in a way that it evolves more naturally. So we already see that Wei has Eve's phone, right? So why not have it set up like a Find My Phone type deal where the professor goes, oh, Eve just stole my science goo. All right, yeah, let me go find her. And then he follows the Find My Phone app to Wei's house. And he goes, oh, why am I at Wei's house? And then you make the discovery of, oh, it's faceless Wei wearing my girlfriend's hair or whatever. Like, oh, isn't that crazy? There's just like, again, it's this clumsiness of the film that like you're missing connective tissue strangely in a film about making connective tissue.
Yeah. He goes, wait, all right, before I do this line, because I'm in a good mood, everything's great. Before I have a drink and blow this line real quick, let me make sure my science goo's still there. Science goo's not there. Wei, you fucking bitch.
Because
and just everything comes together.
Well, the other thing about that is the whole movie, Wei's been threatening to get her notebook back, and she leaves the notebook. Like so he has no reason to suspect it's Wei because Wei has been threatening, give me back my notebook, give me my father's notebook. The notebook is still there. So it very much could just easily be it very much could just be Eve stole science goo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Way would take the notebook. So
it makes way more sense. We get this scene, which I think could have been a lot more emotionally effective, where Way is once again bonding with Jasmine, who's the one nice brat doll, but we don't really know much about Jasmine, and we haven't really seen them bond too much. Just a couple of scenes where like Jasmine is inexplicably like nice to and interested in Way, but in this instance she's just like Way is showing at this point a lot of like red flags, but Jasmine is still like, hey, we're best friends, you know, remember how I wasn't mean to you,
right?
And then she goes to the fridge and finds something in the fridge, assumedly body parts, which we do learn in a minute is in fact the case. And Way is forced to kill her with saran wrap, which I understand how you could kill somebody with saran wrap, especially if you have them tied up already. I don't know that you're going to come up behind somebody with saran wrap, like in place of, piano wire, and kill them with saran wrap. I think they would just rip that saran wrap, because you have to remember, your fingers very easily go through saran wrap. The saran wrap is lethal in an instance where you have somebody tied up and you wrap it around their face so they can't breathe, like a plastic bag. But if I have my arms free and a much smaller person comes up behind me and puts saran wrap over my face, I'm going to tear through that saran wrap, turn around and punch them in the face.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Again, Jasmine, I assume Jasmine is also on whatever sports team Angie is, because they're both way bigger than Way is. It
looks to have 40 pounds at least on.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's not that like she's big and stonky or anything. It's just like that's how little Way is. Way is a tiny person.
She's very petite.
Yeah. So like, yeah, Jasmine should have been able to just tear a hole and then, fucking suplex fucking Way like through the fridge or whatever. Like, it's not.
Well, we do need to specify that Way does, and this is important, does have the ability to fluctuate anywhere between about 5 to 100 pounds and 6 foot 160.
Yeah.
So you could really fluctuate. That's valuable.
She can redirect her mass into certain parts of her body.
Yeah.
Just quickly, earlier, a little bit earlier, as Way as Eve is losing her mind and doing all the direction with the phones and everything, and we have this through line of that loud ass Chihuahua dog. There's a great little bit of the dog Bicky just like in its dog bed eating an arm while she is just shoveling a plate of shrimp in her face. And it's
just unhinged.
Yeah.
She's eating that shrimp like Nicolas Cage chugs that vodka in Mandy after Mandy gets burned.
Yeah. She's eating that shrimp like I eat shrimp. So I just really identified with that. But also just...
She is eating that shrimp like I would eat shrimp.
Yeah. But also the dog eating the arm is just like, okay, this is a house of just horrors and disrepair at this point. And it fucking rules.
Debauchery.
Yeah, it rules.
Yeah. Crustacean and canine debauchery.
Bicky, no.
Yeah, we do have this. Well, you have this through line, like you said, that the neighbor, this older lady, keeps coming over and saying like, hey, you guys ignore this dog and just let it bark all day. And it's becoming like a nuisance. And so she's like the nebby neighbor who keeps coming over and doing that. But so as we've determined, the doc has put everything together. He, one little hint and he just connected 90 different loose ends in his brain and made sense of everything. And of course knows Way is acting as Eve, at least. So the doc shows up to Way's house. He's like, hey, where's Eve? What have you done with Eve? And they have some words. And he's like, give me my goo. Give me my vial. And she's like, it's in the fridge, bitch. Go get it. He goes, opens up the fridge. Guess what's in the fridge? It's Eve's head and some of her body parts. And just as he is in stunned, shock from finding his girlfriend's body in the fridge, Wei jabs him in the neck with a big needle. And that knocks him out, I guess. Then wake up and he's like tied to the coffee table. And I guess she's injecting the goo like directly into his face. But also, she's like peeled some of his skin off of his neck, maybe. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I guess, grafting some of her father's research papers to his body. Is that what we're meant to think is happening?
Yeah. She's completely going with it. And so she's like, I guess she's grafting like, the worst parts of his research to him because, she uses the bad version of it, the snake poison version, I guess. I don't know. She cooked up a new batch.
Yeah. Did she get some more snake? This, it kind of loses its way here, but way. And then she, because she's injecting it over his face, his mouth is going to grow over like her dad's did, but she knows it's going to be the case. So she sticks a straw in his mouth. So he can like continue to breathe, I guess. We don't really learn what her ultimate master plan was here. She's just kind of dancing around Buffalo Bill style, doing wild stuff to him. And, just as whatever she's trying to accomplish comes to fruition, the neighbor shows up, complaining about the dog, and she has to bail. And I'm like, you killed a bunch of people here, innocent ones and otherwise. You just had the easiest victim, which is this old lady from next door. Yeah. And you just let her walk away.
Yeah. Like, you do this whole cat and mouse with, the big blonde giraffe, but this easily takedownable old lady, like you just run her down in the driveway and then drag her back in, I guess. I don't know. She was already armed too, because she threatened her with a scalpel. Yeah. And she's like, oh, you have a scalpel, run away. And then she's like, oh, crap, I better sprint out the back door, which she does. And now Wei is on a foot race with the cops because as she's running, she hears cop, sirens. And then the cops are hot on her tail and they get into a foot race situation. And Wei runs down into it appears to be like a train station or something, maybe like a subway station. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. She runs down there and there's her buddy, the homeless burn victim. And she's basically like, hey, let me hide under your blankets because the cops are hot on my tail here. But as she does that, she's got vials of the goo. And the goo breaks between her and him, I guess. Yeah. And now that's how it works. It goes right through your clothes. And all we know is the goo is now affecting both homeless burn victim guy and Wei. And it's heavily implied that they are grafting together in some capacity. Now we get this scene of Wei's aunt, Angie's mom, like having dinner by herself and then walking home. And then I believe she sees a girl who she thinks is Wei, but it turns out it's not. And then she turns and sees this just amalgamation of two humans melted together thing style under a blanket that has like the wrong number of eyes and stuff. And maybe does or does not recognize it as Wei. I don't know. Yeah. And just like, that's it. And then credits roll. And then we get a quick little sequence of the dog is now living with the old neighbor lady and she's taking care of the dog. Yep.
And that's it.
Cut to Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void credits for some reason.
Yeah. So fucking weird. It felt like a long way to go for not a great payoff.
Yeah. Like it's a fun
for me.
Yeah, it's a fun punchline of like, oh yeah, she wound up grafted to another person. I guess my problem is, and we actually haven't mentioned this homeless vet character up until
we mentioned it. I mentioned that they talked, I mentioned it earlier that they did like introduce each other to him, and he told her like directions or whatever. So
yeah, but yeah, they don't spend a lot of time together, and he doesn't have an actual effect on like what Way's doing. Like if he was more involved in the story, maybe it would make more sense. But like as it reads now, it reads kind of weird that Wade winds up grafted to this person who clearly is, I'm assuming, is a vet of some sort and was like horrifically burned during service, and then had to live on the streets because like he just wasn't getting taken care of or whatever. So it's like he's a real just unfortunate character of circumstance.
Yeah.
Way is an actual villain in the way that she takes people apart and uses their bodies for her own needs. So it's weird that in the end she winds up grafted to this person who is yes, he's physically ugly, but it's because of like circumstances through his life. It just seems unfair to him is what I'm getting at. It's unfair.
Oh yeah, that there is no like, there's no karma element to the finish.
Yeah.
Like it may be terrible, like why he is certainly blameless. And if it would have been something like we don't even know enough about him to care either way, but we do, I guess, have to assume he's just like a poor, unfortunate person. And I mean, the only thing I could think of is earlier on, like he does say something like, or she says something to him about like, oh, I'm going to help us both or something like that.
Right.
And so is the idea that like her ultimate, goal was like perverted in such a way that it now ends up like this. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, but that it's like, it's such a throwaway line for a character that doesn't have an effect on the main story. Like again, it's a weak punchline if that's what they were setting up of like, oh, I'm going to help us both. And then it ends up that they're both grafted together at the end. Okay. Yeah. That's a setup and a punchline, but the rest of the film wasn't about achieving that punchline. It was just a thing that happened at the end because it's funny to do, a finger's face with many eyes type deal. Like, okay, sure. But, I don't know. Yeah. Again, it's clumsy. I think it's more serving to the story if she wound up grafted to the professor.
Yeah.
Because then the two of them are both like chasing the same ideal and they're both chasing it in an unethical way. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then they end up being like that one, two-headed Sesame Street monster who are always like fighting with its other head and stuff like that. And then they become a whole like comedic duo and they go on the road together. And
there's the Sesame Street one, but then there's also the Toxic Crusader one. Do you remember that one where it's it's the professor and the surfer guy who are grafted together?
Yeah, that's a great one. I initially was gonna say the three-headed knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but that's a three-headed situation. That's a whole nother dynamic.
That's another. That's the sequel, Brian.
That's a horse of a different color. So overall, is it worth a watch? Sure.
Yeah.
I think overall some good performances. Big swings. They don't necessarily land, but and pretty clumsy storytelling as well. And I know I'm not making it sound like it's worth it, but it's a fun little watch.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem for this film is we've all seen The Substance, and literally these films came out like very close to each other. Like, The Substance premiered at Cannes, but both Grafted premiered in New Zealand in September of 2024, and The Substance came out like 2 weeks later in September in the United States wide. So like both of these films were kind of made at the same time. So it's not like, one is biting off the other, but there's so much similar to them of like unexplainable goo, living up to beauty standards as a through line, ending up as a horrible monster in the end anyway. Like it's so, there's so many like,
body horror on body horror on body horror. Yeah.
Like they're very fun, they're functionally different films, but like there's a lot of similarities. And when you compare, like, the performances in this film are good, but they are not Demi Moore. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that was Grafted from 20 and 24, guys. Check it out on the Shudder. Absolutely worth watching. All right. Remember as well, we are going to be doing Victorian horror for our March Showdown. So if you've got suggestions for us for Victorian horror films that happened in Victorian times, that are set in Victorian time, that have a story with some elements of Victorian culture, I don't know, send them our way. You can slide into the old DMs, or you can, send us an old-fashioned email at halloweensforever pod@gmail.com too, if you like to do it that way. All right. Any other thoughts? Anything else we want to talk about real quick?
No, I don't got nothing else going on. Just like Brian says, send us your suggestions. If you suggest movies, we will watch them and we'll do them. I hope. I hope I know Turkey Bacon was pretty big on this film, so I hope we didn't disappoint him too much. But considering that we don't, we think this film's good, but we don't love it. But it's still worth a watch.
Well, listen, I'm sick and I'm grumpy, and you got to deal with it. Sorry. And you guys had to put up with my fucking voice and coughing and hacking the whole time. So I guess you really got fucked over in a couple of different directions there.
Yeah.
But by next week, I'll probably be back to normal, or I might be dead, you guys. What if I am?
Sick.
What if a week from today I'm dead? And then this is like the last, like I predicted my own death. That'd be hilarious.
What a waste when you could predict so many other deaths that would be helpful to humanity.
And nope, only my own. I have that gift, and it's only my own. All right. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And The Substance. Changing my name to The Substance. My new nickname.
Getting lazier every single time.
Yep.
I'm The Substance.
Yep. That's my new nickname.
Bye. Bye. It's the last words I'll ever say.